Okay, so let's do this trace table where we've got some code, we've got our result and our data, blah, 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 blah. So this is the parameter value, x, triangle, 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 y, triangle, and triangle, 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 z. Triangle represents a space. Okay, now let's go over to here. I'm going to ignore this to begin with. We know that space is a string, but I don't need, space is a constant, but I don't need that at the moment. Let's do this bit. After space is false, and new string is empty. Very cool. We're now going to do our loop, which is this in a different color. I'm going to emphasize, do we have another loop inside of here? No, we don't. So we just need one loop. Nice. Okay, so the first time it loops, index is going to be 1. Next char is going to be x, because we know that mid in string, which is our value here, index, which is 1, and 1, which is 1 character. So I'm going to put x in here. If after space is true, I'm sure I've done a video on this before. If after space is true, well, it's not true. It's false. So we're not going to do this. We're in fact going to do this. New string becomes new string in next char. So in speech marks, it's going to be x. Going to combine the two together. If next char is space, no, it's not. So we're now going to loop back. And we're going to do index becoming 2. Next char being triangle. So we said, okay, so next char is triangle if after space equals true. Well, after space is false. So let's go down to here. New string equals new string plus next char, so it's going to be this. X triangle. If next char equals space, then after space becomes true. So after space does become true, but it becomes true on the second time it loops. So it's still in loop number 2. So I put it all on the same line. It then goes back to the top. We're now on line number 3, or index 3. Next char would be another triangle. If after space is true, well, it is true. So we're going to do this bit. If next char doesn't equal space, well, next char, if next char doesn't equal space, well, next char does equal space. Remember, space is a triangle, so it does equal space, so this isn't going to run. This is still true. So, on the third time it ran, it was another triangle. So I should have done that. Next char is a triangle again on the third time, then we're comparing it. Okay. On the fourth time, because it doesn't do any of this, it then loops again. So the fourth time it loops. Next char is, what's the next one in? We've done a triangle, so I'm just going to cross these out. Done this one, so we're now on this triangle. Okay, nothing else happens. So we know the pattern to this, because it's a space, nothing happens. So we now loop again, we're going to be on number 5. This time we're dealing with y. Yo, I've just come off an airplane flight from England, so you owe me a big one here, Georgie. This is for Georgie, by the way, but anyone else can use it. I'm exhausted. Okay. So, y, let's see. Well, if after space is true, well, it is still true, then if next char doesn't equal space, we're then going to do new string plus next char equals new string. So that's going to be whatever's a new string, which is x and a triangle still. Nothing's been built on this. And then what we're going to do is put our new character y in. There we go. And after space now becomes false. Pause the video and see if you can actually finish this off yourself. Okay, and still do a solution. Okay, so 6. So the 6th time it's looped. The next thing we need is another triangle. So, I'll put a triangle in here. That's the first thing we're doing. If after space equals true, no it doesn't. So, new string equals blah 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 blah. So it's going to be x triangle y triangle, because that's what this is doing down here. Then after space becomes true again. We're now on the 7th time. The next thing we've got is A for and, so next char is A. If after space equals true, which it does, and it doesn't equal space because it's A, we're now going to build this onto it, so it's going to be x triangle y triangle A, and then after space becomes false. And then we've got our 8th time of looping, so it's going to go right back to the top. And we're then going to get the next letter, which is N. After space is still false, so it's going to be x triangle y triangle A, and now N. Okay, we combine it down here. We now do the next one, so we're on D. So D on number 9. After space is still false, so we combine it. I don't even need to look at the code. I know what's going on now. Y triangle A and D. It then loops again. This time we're dealing with a triangle, so let's put the triangle in. After space is false, so as it's false, we're going to combine this. It's going to be x triangle y triangle A and D triangle. After space is still going to, hold on, let's work this out. If next char equals space, after space becomes true. So we need to turn that to be true because it is a space. Triangle represents space, remember that. We're now on 11, where we've got another triangle. And we know that with a triangle is a space, so none of this is going to happen, it's just going to loop again. 12, we've now got Z. What's Z going to do? Well, let's just put Z in here. If after space is true, which it is, if next char doesn't equal space, so we're going to add it onto this, so x triangle y triangle and Z. And then after space becomes false, and we check, but we're done because that's the end of the loop, and that is all our code. What does this code actually do? Pause the video, see if you can actually tell me, looking at the algorithm, looking at our trace table, what's actually done. Remember, these count as spaces. This is our original. Well, this algorithm has just got rid of all the original additional spaces. So it would have been like this: x, y, and 2 spaces, z. And what it's done, it's just got rid of the additional spaces, so it's just be x, y, and z. So we're just left with 1 space. by stripping it. Strips all the additional spaces.